About the negotiations, are we going to see more of the same of what we saw in Oman, where the US makes their demands and the IRGC makes their demands, and they're completely different and nothing happens?
Yeah, I mean, okay, so the negotiations is, in my opinion, is very likely to be same as the previous negotiations between the Islamic Republic and United States, but not in the sense that nothing happens. In fact, everything will happen. Like, the negotiations seem to be another attempt by the Americans to just buy time to get their assets where they need to be, which is like such a deja vu. It's so interesting. Like, if this ends up being the same, is like, how many times is the Islamic Republic going to fall for this? I mean, it's not like they have a choice. But if this ends up being like last time, is like not again, like right in the middle of. So last time we were here, like when you're talking about the negotiations in Oman, we saw that the time frame that they gave for the negotiations matched a little bit too perfectly with the time required for the airstrike carrier groups to get to where they need to get to. And we were wondering, like, are the Americans just saying that like, oh yeah, we might have a deal, we're going to negotiate, oh, these they have some really good points, oh, like, yeah, it didn't kill anybody, it was just in the stampede, they didn't kill Iranians, it was just stampede, like, and all of that, and all of a sudden with the airstrike carriers there, like, boom, they started, like, okay, yep, I mean, like, it was exactly like we thought, it ended up exactly happening like we thought. So if this might be the same thing again, because they're saying 2 weeks of ceasefire, and look, the USS Boxer, it seems like it takes 2 weeks to get into the region. I don't know where it is right now. I think it's in the Philippines, close to the Philippines right now, Philippine Sea, I think that's where it is. So there's two airstrike carrier groups that are underway, that adds to the three that is already there. So the three that are already there is the USS Abraham Lincoln, the Gerald Ford, and the Tripoli one, right? Am I getting it right? These are the three that are already there. So the two that are on the way are the USS Boxer, and then we have the George H.W. Bush. Those are on the way. And the most interesting one of these is the USS Boxer one, because it can do, like, not because of the airstrike carrier part, but because of the things that the Marines can do on with it. Because what is it called? And let me see. There's this ability that it has. Um, there's a specific name for it. I know Jeffrey will be able to tell us that. These are the hover. They have the hovercrafts. What is it called that you could do operations on land and sea at the same time? What is that called, Jeffrey? There's a specific name for that. Oh,
Amphibian
Amphibian?
or
amphibious. Yeah, amphibious assault. Yeah. So they have the USS Boxer one has this really high capabilities with the amphibious assault, with those hovercrafts, I think, and also a lot of the air power that comes with that air group is is focused on supporting the Marines that are supposed to do very specific ground operations. For example, taking over an island. The air power that comes with that airstrike carrier groups is specifically meant for supporting that type of ground operation, right? So this also goes along very well with the fact that they just bombed in Hark Island. They bombed 50 different military, the military infrastructure in Hark Island was hit 50 different times, and they kept the oil infrastructure completely intact. And we were wondering, like, why would you do that unless you're going to do a ground operation and take over Hark Island, right? So the fact that they already did that in Hark Island, and the fact that the USS Boxer seems to be on the way, and the fact that the USS Boxer seems to be exactly for these types of operations, alongside with the other things that they already brought, and the fact that the time that it takes to get there matches the time that they talked about the ceasefire. It's a bit too perfect to be true. Like, if this is matching too well, maybe it's like we're reading too much into this, because if all of this is true, then President Trump went all unhinged with, like, the end of a civilization and praising Allah and taking out all the electric power plants and all the bridges to make the Islamic Republic like you know shit their pants. I mean, like, holy fuck, this guy's praising Allah. Even like we don't know, like you think like I think he's lost it, right? He might do all of these things. So they're like, okay, let's talk. So and then really close to the deadline, they were like the Pakistanis got in, and with the Chinese, I don't know. President Trump talked to the Chinese. I don't know if they had anything to do with this, but they managed to convince the Islamic Republic to like, yeah, this man is crazy. And within about an hour before the deadline, they were like, okay, ceasefire, let's talk. And it worked out very well because we know the American soldiers, they're very tense because of 40 days of continuous operations. Gets to like they need rest. We know that the stockpiles of the missile interceptors were low, that they need to restock them. We know that these ships were on the way, these Navy forces are on the way. And if all of this is true, there is no ceasefire. This is just a pretend ceasefire. And the negotiations are not even for the sake of negotiations. And we're about to see if all of this is true. And I don't know if it's true or not, but we're about to see a huge escalation. Like the phase of this war that we're about to enter seems to be much bigger than when anything we have ever seen so far. Because guys, even before these two, groups coming to this region, we already have the largest buildup of military assets since 2003's fall of Saddam. So even with the three that we have already, this is the largest buildup, and now two is getting added, and they seem to be exactly the type of stuff that you need for specific ground operations. And given how much it makes sense to take Hark Island or to do some other operations with regards to some other islands or southern parts of the mainland, it's just like everything seems to be suggesting that the Americans are just buying time just to be able to prepare for this. But I don't know, Jeffrey, what do you think?
Administration said if these people sit there and fuck around with the administration during these quote unquote negotiations, what they're going to get hit with is going to make the previous strikes look like a fucking day at Disneyland. And all the things that we've
Oh,
put in place, it will make they're not going to know what the fuck hit them. Like they keep, I mean, that's because they're pseudo theologically motivated. Like, oh, but well, make no mistake. Like the reason there was a little bit of a hiccup with regards to the heavy aircraft like our bombers was because certain elements of the western states of NATO fucked us, right? For stupid ass political reasons. That shit's all been ironed out. And yeah, you're going to find out again, this is not a guy to fuck around with. Like Donald means what he says. That's what he said. That's what Pete said. And they mean it. Just saying.
Okay, I have Guy to respond to this, and afterwards Shona.
So I'm mostly in agreement. The only thing that is giving me pause is that seeing as the clock actually isn't reset just by virtue of doing a ceasefire, by the time the ceasefire is over, they'll have about 10 days left before they need Congress approval. Oh, so 60 to 90. So I'll be interested to hear what Jeffrey has to say in response.
So the War Powers Act, real quick, says that we, like the president, can initiate or carry out military operations sans congressional approval with, and all they have to do is notify Congress within 40 hours of starting military operations for 60 days with an additional 30 days, which they just say, look, we just need another 30 days to ensure force protection when you disengage. So it's essentially 90 days and Congress can't say jack shit.
Oh, okay.
Uh,
So that takes care of my one reservation. If it's 90 days, then it's fine. 40 days should be plenty of time to do whatever they need to do, since they're not going to stay on the ground anyway. Yeah. So in that case, I withdraw my
well,
reservation. Yeah.
so so I know, Jeffrey, I think you disagree with this, and I just wanted to hear you say whether or not you disagree with this. But so many people are saying the ceasefire resets because of the ceasefire, and I know you guys are saying no. But where are there so many people are getting this? People are like, oh, this is actually a genius move. This so-called ceasefire means that you don't have to get permission from Congress, because once you have a ceasefire, then it goes back to zero. and
So
we
it
could
has
do
to be
another
a
session.
new it has to be a new operation. Like it has to be a new round of hostilities for it to actually reset the clock. What needs to happen is that like we need to say this operation is over, and then we need like a new reason to do a new one. Now, technically, I guess they could say if Congress isn't against it, they could say something like, "Okay, the operation is over. We destroyed their capabilities, but we now need to start a new operation to extract the uranium." But that's iffy, and I guess for that to work, you would need congressional approval anyway, which is the thing you're trying to avoid. Like you need Congress to sort of play along with that, which is my understanding.
Yeah. Okay, Jeffrey, go ahead.
Real quick. So here's what people are probably getting confused about it. So ceasefires do not reset the clock regarding the War Powers Act. What does reset the clock is if there is either like troops are fully withdrawn and then redeployed because there's a new threat, or there is a new theater, a new conflict, in some cases introduction of new adversaries. So it's almost like, okay, so we have 90 days, give me a little rope here, and we cancel operations, or we conclude operations in 90 days, and then like the Chi-Coms are getting involved, and we're like, well, so now we have a new threat, so we have a new 90 day, right? I mean, that's kind of where that goes. People are confusing, like, if you have withdrawal of forces and then you have a new threat, you then do it again, right? Versus, and they're confusing that with a ceasefire. That's not the same as a ceasefire. There's a couple of things that can indeed reset the clock. Ceasefires don't do that.
Interesting.
So can you
Help clear it.
Can you put that in context for the 1987-88 Tinker War? Because my understanding was that they had many strikes over 13 months and they just used the act again and again. Yeah, how does that work?
I mean, you kind of answered your own question though, right? Because they used it over and over again.
Well, yeah, so I'm asking what exactly is to stop the current administration from just using the act again?
They
They
need
don't
to
have it to
withdraw the
begin with.
forces.
But isn't it that
Like
they don't have it to begin with right now? Yeah.
I'd have to look at it. I mean, I'd have to look at like how the tanker war of the 80s applies to today. It just seemed like you had answered your own question. I can give you, if you give me a minute, I could just like look and parse it out for you if you want. I mean, if I have to look something up, I'll be honest with you. Say I gotta look. I mean, I can't know everything.
Yep. Yeah, no, that's good. Appreciate that. Okay. Danny got frozen and then I think he got kicked out. Okay. Anybody else want to mod? Let me actually see his list.
so, Shauna was the next to reply, if I remember correctly.
Shana, go ahead.
Hey, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Cool. I just also wanted to point out that something Trump does very brilliantly is, and one of the strategies is kind of not being noticed, that he kind of subtly preps his base. So what I noticed is when he was talking about the island, I don't know, maybe it was a week or two ago, I don't know. He was talking about the island. He's like, "Well, I'd like to take the island. I'd like to go get some of that oil. I think it'd be a great idea, but the people, they're so good, they probably don't want to do it." And so like that's what he was telling the media, is he's like, "I would like it, but maybe the people wouldn't like it. We'll see what happens. We got to go by the people." And he kind of saw, and I've seen him do this a few times, where he will soft pedal an idea that he likes. And so when it comes time to, because what I found
Yeah.
with the base is a lot of the base, uh, like there's a large section of the base for whom Trump is just their Shaw. There's a large section of the base for whom that is. And so if they think that he has an idea, they're like, yeah, whatever Trump says is a great idea. And so if he can soft pedal that idea, then they'll support it. And that's a strategy he uses with the media. it's to kind of make it okay. So he doesn't just launch these surprise attacks. He sort of softly signals to his base, and then he'll kind of like do boomerang tricks to the media and the enemies. That's what I've noticed.
He also sees what the reaction is before he makes a decision. Like he puts something out there and he looks at how it's received before making a final decision. Jeffrey wanted to respond to this. Jeffrey.
Yeah, so I can give you an assessment. I just had to look up what former President Reagan used during the tanker wars. So what former President Reagan's administration used during the tanker wars is he set it up in such a manner that he specifically avoided using the War Powers Act and kept like, in other words, the Reagan administration framed those operations as defensive operations, and what it outlined to a lot of administrations post that was you can tailor or structure operations so it's just under the political requirement for you to actually have to enact the War Powers Act. And that's how they were able to sustain operations. That's one of the reasons why, again, a lot of the non-interventionist douche canoes, many of which I referenced in the interview I did with Trevor Loudon a year ago, specifically regarding Iran, are always trying to like change the law. And it also underlines again how absolutely critical all of the efforts all of us do, right? In the battle of the narratives, Armin and Tosi and Goldie and everybody here. Because that's what the non-interventionists that are very much aligned with these bad guys, whether it's mullahs or Putin's criminalized counterintelligence or Chi-Com's leverage to erode national will and political capital, right?
I really want to ask this question to play devil's advocate here about the negotiations leading to peace, because I sincerely doubt that'll be the final outcome of all this. This question's for Ali here. What do you know about the current state of the Iranian Rial and the Iranian central bank's plan to stabilize that currency to then get their own economy flowing? Because they don't have the option that the big bad United States with our privilege does of being the world reserve currency where you can just go fiat, fiat, fiat and have it work at least for a while. To my knowledge, they don't have any precious metals or any other hard assets to really solidify that. That combined with the leadership not being clear, the supporters fighting with the leadership, I don't see how this leads basically from negotiations to peace. I really see this as being an intermission leading to the next phase of the war. But like I said, just to ask, how could the central bank stabilize things to get their economy stable again to make a lasting peace? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, they can't. So about 9, 10, actually no, like more like a year ago, 11 months ago, in Iran you had 6 large banks and they all failed. And the IRGC thought it would be a genius idea to merge these 6 failing banks into one big bank. So instead of adding their problems, they multiplied them. And then fast forward to a few months ago, Rial hits, I think it was like what, 0 or something momentarily. Everyone came out to protest. Right now it's like Rial is like 1.6 million. Just for reference, like when I lived in Iran, it was like $1 to 2.5 toman. Now it's like $1 to 160,000 toman. So you can't really fix that, especially with what's been going on right now. You take off Hark Island, and that's pretty much like the killing blow. Even if you don't, and you left the regime to its own devices, they're gonna fail no matter what. Even if you're the United States and you want to save the regime, you can't, because it requires billions of dollars of injection or unfreezing all of the Islamic Republic's foreign assets, which is like $400 billion. Which, why would you even do that in the first place? So yeah, you're right. There's no way in terms of the banking system to get to peace. There's no way.
Nah, I didn't think so. Thanks for that.
Do you think that at some point, one way or another, they need to dollarize the economy in Iran? Like before we get a new currency?
Like new currency, I don't. I mean, I think we're going to keep the real, but I don't think they can dollarize. I just don't really see a way, which is why they've been trying to get payments in Bitcoin, yuan, won,
I mean, you
whatever they
don't even have
can.
to dollarize it yourself. It will just automatically get dollarized when people don't trust the currency so much that they start trading in dollars instead of the currency, the official currency. It just automatically gets dollarized.
Do you know if the sanctions prevent you from like transporting dollars in? Because I know when you want to buy dollars in Iran, you have to have like an intermediary who goes into like another country and then brings in the dollars for you. It's not exactly like legal either. So for having the whole country to do that, I don't know if that would work.
I mean, there's already a lot of dollars flowing inside Iran, right? So you might just be like, well, I'm not going to bring like a whole, bags of, I can't even carry this much money to be able to buy, I don't know, some peanuts. Like, can we just do some, dollars? I have dollars, you accept dollars. Here's some dollars. I'll buy some stuff from you. Like, I just think that's because even if you can't bring more dollars in, there's enough dollars flowing in Iran for people to just be like, let me just buy this in dollars. Like, first of all, like, even if you're writing a check or something, if it becomes so, unpredictable, like the check that I'm writing right now, you don't know how much this is going to be worth like 5 hours from now. Like if I'm buying a car, right? Like the buyer and the seller, they don't even know, like, like within hours by tomorrow, this might be a completely different value, the check that you're writing. So just give me some dollars so I could sell you the car.
Yeah, you'd have to have the state institutions legalize the dollar and have it accepted like that. I don't know if they would like
No,
politically be able to do it though.
yeah, it would be under the table. Like you wouldn't be doing it like it
Yeah, I
just
can.
makes so much sense. Like, yeah, it
My
would be
bad.
under the table kind of. Yeah, go on, sorry, Jim.
Yeah, no, I mean, because we're already seeing infighting between the regime and the supporters themselves. So when they legalize the US dollar, I can see that driving more rage to the regime supporters on top of that. So it's like lose lose.
I'm not talking about legalizing the US dollar. I'm talking about the society doing its own thing because it's just the real just doesn't make any sense. Like that's how it usually gets dollarized.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not anybody from the higher up making a decision. It's just like it's so unreliable that people start refusing to trade with that currency. Like that you don't know like by tomorrow if it's going to have a different value.
Yeah,
Especially with larger, bigger purchases with Bitcoin.
yeah, I can definitely see that. Also, Jim, in the US, the Federal Reserve can just print more money and then it can lend it to the government in terms of bonds, or it can get lended to other like, you know, big banks in America because the dollar is valuable. But that causes inflation.
Mm.
If the US, or sorry, if the Iranian central bank does that, you just had the real like, you know, go up
They
like
do
a
that.
thousand. They
They
do
do
that and
that
it
all the
causes
time. That's
inflation, right?
why.
Which
Yeah.
is why, like, if you want to sell your house in Iran, the evaluation of that home in the morning is going to be different than what it is in the evening. You're going to miss out on money. Okay, so that's how fast inflation goes up. So if they want to print even more money to try and keep their economy alive, it's just going to accelerate their own death.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have responses from Reza and then Jeffy. Okay, Jeffrey.
So, like, one of the concerns regarding cryptocurrency was that a lot of nefarious actors, whether they were sub-state transnational terrorist organizations, organized crime syndicates, elements of the intelligence agencies of any number of hostile state actors, Mullah regime, Putin, Chaikan, blah, 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 would use it to try and like circumvent financial forensics. That's no longer going to help them with quantum decryption. So, they can try that shit. I guarantee you our guys are already fleshing out all their shit there. Not fleshing, already fleshed it all out. They just actually posted that like a open intelligence report, like a news article regarding that, just I think maybe last week.
Sorry, do you mean like they know where this crypto is going to and from?
So the whole point of cryptocurrency, like one of the concerns from a national security perspective, is it made it very hard or it frustrated financial forensics by the intelligence community. Like, it's almost like a weird high-tech version of like a Hawala network or something, right? It made it hard for us to track where terrorists are sending what, or bad guys are sending who to what. Yeah, that no longer is an issue. So they can try that shit. We'll just, flesh them out and then know where to drop a bomb.
And